Hello and welcome to On the DL with Dak and Lan. Today we continue our discussion on fat loss, fact or fiction, covering intermittent fasting and overtraining. Please enjoy.
Circumstances. I have something funny that happens to me a lot in clinic is I'll get people that rock up in clinic that tell me that, let's say for instance, intermittent fasting worked really well for them. And my answer to them is always, if it worked so well, why are you in my office? So why do you need me if it's working so well for you? If this system is perfect and it's getting you where you need to go, you shouldn't need me. But the fact that you're here means that it doesn't actually work for you. It means that that's it. It means that it was able to give you rapid fat loss in a short period of time that you were unable to maintain for whatever reason. So let's look at it from that perspective. So whilst we're on the topic,
intermittent fasting.
So we got this one a few times, didn't we, on the questions board?
Yes. And I feel like over the last few years, it's gotten really popular. I've seen it more and more pop up on Instagram and people talking about it. And it's quite the heated topic because I feel like people that do it are like, this is it. This is all I want to do. This is all I want to talk about. And everyone else is like, why?
Yeah. And it's one of the things that should factor into this for you guys is do you enjoy it? Is it beneficial for you from a structure perspective? So some people work a really heavy duty job where they can't really access food for 8 hours a day, right? If this is you, then intermittent fasting may be a really effective way to eat.
Yeah.
It's effective because it suits your lifestyle though, not effective because it's this magic solution. The way intermittent fasting works in fat loss is exactly the same way keto works in fat loss, high carb diets work in fat loss, You create
eating well.
That's it. You're eating more mindfully and you're creating a calorie deficit. That is how it's working. There is no magic trick to it. There are other side effects that some people experience that are positive. We're not trying to talk people out of doing intermittent fasting. We're just trying to make sure people don't think they need to do it for no apparent reason.
Yes.
You know, we want people to understand that if you feel better on intermittent fasting, I have very close friends and colleagues who are incredibly well educated who find that they have a clearer mind if they intermittently fast in the morning and they get more work done and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
If that works for you, great, do it. By all means, do it. Same with digestive discomfort. There are patients that I have that find that if they fast, particularly until sort of 12 or 1 o'clock, they're able to move their bowel in the morning and feel more comfortable when they start eating throughout the day.
Yeah.
That, again, is totally fine. We're A-okay with that. We're not worried about you. We're here to tell the general population that creating a restrictive situation where you can only eat between this time and this time is not going to facilitate your fat loss any better than having a calorie restricted broad range diet that you eat across the day.
Yeah, I think that ultimately it comes down to your why. Like you said, like if you've got a job that you physically can't eat and you're stressing about that, then intermittent fasting is definitely going to help you in that. If you're doing it because you can't control yourself, then you need to think about why you can't control yourself. You know, why are you on, you know, is your deficit too large? Why are you finding the need to not eat at all? It's like that all or nothing approach. Like I think intermittent fasting works for the right people, but it ultimately comes down to why you're doing it. Are you doing it to help you and that you're happy? Or are you doing it to cover glorify eating disorder?
Yeah, we were talking about this before. If for a lot of people, we feel it can be a Band-Aid approach, don't we, Dak? It's just this way of shrinking. If you're in a deficit, only being able to eat for 6 hours means that you can have 3 large meals over 6 hours, which might make you feel like you're getting more food, which, as we discussed, when you're, you know, we sometimes have competitors that have to do a cut either for a bodybuilding show or a powerlifting competition or something along those lines. And if we have to reduce their food significantly for that purpose. Sometimes it can be really effective to reduce the feeding window, because people do tend to get more hungry once they've eaten. So once you've had your first meal of the day, it secretes gastric juices. It does all of these things that trigger you to be more hungry. So of course, a couple of hours later, your body's going to be telling you that you want more food. In a situation where you're in a significant deficit and you have to stay in that significant deficit, it can be purposeful. But like you said before, Dak, if you're in a significant deficit that's not actually benefiting you, so if you're putting yourself, if your basal metabolic rate is 1,300 calories a day and you're eating 1,200 calories a day, this is not a solution for you. This is just a way of justifying eating too little for your body to function. And I think that's where people get confused, isn't it? And the psychological component is huge. You've had it more than I have recently. I guess a lot of my clients come in with digestive issues and that sort of jazz, whereas Dak gets a lot more weight loss clients. And you see it probably more frequently than I do, where people they create this confinement in terms of their nutrition because they think that that's going to allow them to have a better state of control. And the truth is it will short term, but it won't long term, right? So there's only so much time you can spend feeling deprived, feeling depleted, being unable to join in at your son or daughter's birthday party because, you know, if you eat that piece of cake and it's 10 o'clock instead of 11 o'clock, it's going to affect you differently somehow. You know, all of these
cake.
All of these things factor in. So it's just interesting. It's interesting to look at the fact versus fiction side of things. So we believe that intermittent fasting can be a useful tool for a small percentage of the population. For the rest of the population, it's probably not useful, and it's certainly not going to improve your fat loss just because you have a smaller eating window.
Yes. At the end of the day, you're not eating less. You're just eating less through the day and eating the exact same amount at night. And one of the things that really upsets me about when people do this is you have people, they have that 6-hour window to eat, and most of the time, like, they're on 1,800 to 2,200 calories, which is quite a lot for 6 hours. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't know how much good food you could fit in that window. I don't know, like, that's a lot of bloody food, like, that's a lot of volume, and that's not going to happen. So obviously you're going to go to ice cream or, you know, foods that don't really have any nutritional value whatsoever.
You're definitely going to skew towards energy dense foods instead of nutritionally dense foods. And I guess that goes back to your Band-Aid suggestion before, Gorgeous Worm, where it's like, it's a way, it's almost self-sabotage in itself, because it's a way of telling yourself that it's okay to eat bad foods as long as it's within these constraints, right? Even though deep down, you know that eating Nutella and ice cream and protein powder is not an adequate way to cover your nutrition, but you can do it. And the irony is that you can get aesthetics out of that. You can get lean and you can get a little bit. Yeah, but you won't be healthy. It's a far cry from being healthy.
No, I mean, you look great, you won't look good on the inside.
And that's it. And long term, what matters more, health or aesthetics, right? So health has to be the core of any nutritional plan you follow. And if it's not, you really need to be questioning why you're following that plan.
100%. And I feel like when you ask that question, I would be afraid of the majority of people's answers.
Yeah.
I just want to look good. I don't care what it takes.
That's right. That is the answer we get most of the time, isn't it? And it's, look, at the end of the day, what was the old saying? If you don't make time for bodily exercise now, you'll have to make time for illness later. That's what it is. You know, like if you're making these choices that are all about aesthetics now, they're not necessarily going to facilitate this beneficial situation in the future. So let's prioritize health first and foremost, make sure that we're putting ourselves in a position where we can maintain the results that we get with our fat loss, lean mass gain, whatever it may be. And then we're not only setting ourselves up for a great little outcome from our fat loss diet, we're setting ourselves up for a healthy future for ourselves, for our kids, so on and so forth. And, you know, kids listen, kids hear it when you're talking about being fat all the time. You know, if you're constantly talking about diet this, diet that, that's what your kids are going to grow up believing is necessary. If you teach them that eating healthy is the priority, that's also what they're going to grow up believing. So, you know, let's start skewing the conversation that way, hey?
Yeah, I excuse me, I actually saw a post on Instagram, I think yesterday. It was about like it was like simple foods and how you should like talk to kids about them, like just like what you would normally say and then what you should say to articulate and obviously you know, help them pay attention, actually take it on. It was actually really interesting. And I wholeheartedly believe that, like, you know, you force things on kids and they're not going to listen, but it's like if you just make it their world, it'll just be normal as they grow.
Exactly right, Gorge. Yeah. All right, well, we have one more here.
Have we rambled enough, or is
Yeah, we're good at this. This was the whole plan, though, because at the end of the day, what were we trying to do? The whole point of on the DL here is the simple topics. That's it. The simple topics that get covered in 2 sentences on Instagram that we're not happy with the answers for. We want to cover more information. We want to deliver it. Whoever wants to listen to it can listen to it. All right.
Exactly.
So last but not least for today, one thing that we also get asked about quite a lot is, you know, why can't I just do more exercise if I want to lose fat? So, you know, if it's energy in versus energy out, why can't I just exercise more, and why won't that just resolve the problem? So Dak Attack, being the amazing coach you are and training people on the daily, how do you reckon they'd go pulling up from a 200 kilo squat and then going into, you know, a metabolic session the next day?
Oh my God. Well, if anyone's ever competed in powerlifting, you know that like during a competition, you're like, oh, I can't wait to get back to the gym. I'm going to smash it. Like, can't wait for my new program. And then after the day, you're like, I don't want to touch a barbell ever again. It's quite sad, actually. Like, I find majority of people are in that mindset of they need to do more to get more out of it. You know, why can't I train for 2 hours, 7 days a week? And it's like, did you know that you can get the exact same results, if not better, from 3 to 4 sessions for an hour and a half? Like, you're literally spending time there, but you're wasting your time. Like, the amount of recovery and the stress responses from the training, you can't keep up. And I recently experienced this from I went from powerlifting to CrossFit, and I was like, all right, so I've stopped doing 2-hour sessions 5 days a week, and now I'm going to do CrossFit. I'm like, well, these hour sessions don't even, like, I only train for like 30 minutes to 45 minutes in each one. That is nothing. So for about 8 weeks, I did 7 to 9 sessions a week. And it took my body about 8 weeks to tell me to piss off. And I just got really fatigued, and like, I didn't want to train. I was so sore, and it took my body about a week and a half to really fully recover. I'm fine now, but
can you tell people what you experienced, Dak? So it's not just muscle soreness, is it? It's the fatigue, the water retention, the inflammation, all of that sort of jazz. It's not just sore muscles that you're creating. You're creating
will to live.
Yeah. And you're creating a situation where, all right, so you've done this epic 8 weeks of training your little tush off. Now you can only train 3 times a week because you're so fatigued and that's all you can manage. Secondarily, you've got this chronic inflammation response now, and chronic inflammatory responses stop us from losing body fat as well. So the human body is all about taking care of itself, and it has heaps of systems to make sure that we don't screw it up. We keep trying, but it always wins. So the easiest example of this that I can use is in bodybuilding and powerlifting. We sometimes use a tool for weight loss called water loading. And water loading can be really effective, but it's also really unpredictable, right? So the reason it's unpredictable is the human body has a dozen different mechanisms that regulate our fluid. We are trying to fool those 12 different mechanisms when we do a water load. So when we do a water load, we take in a bucket load more water than we normally do, at least 2.5 to 3 litres more than we normally do a day. And we rely on the body to flush out not only that extra, but a little bit more, right? And that in turn drops our body weight so that we can jump on the scales a kilo or two lighter and make it into our weight class and then go and smash some Gatorade to fix the problem. But if the body compensates, if the body goes through its compensatory mechanisms sooner than we predict that it does, it can also go the other way. So this is the same system that happens in the human body across the board. So the human body will fight back. Anytime we take it out of equilibrium, every time we disturb a process that it has in status quo, it's going to fight to get it back into status quo. So if you overtrain and your cortisol response is insane and then your protein synthesis isn't adequate, because how much can you repair if you're training twice a day, 3 days a week? Your body starts to go, right, I'm going to shut down all of the mechanisms that aren't super useful for me right now. I'm going to slow down everything so that I can focus on what's necessary. So all of those symptoms that you experience, Dak, and your body is really responsive, and that probably has a lot to do with the fact that you're so well trained for so many years, and because your nutrition is fairly on point most of the time, that when it's not, your body fights back hard, real hard.
Oh, it fought back. It fucking fought back. It's funny you should say that about the water load. I've actually experienced, well, I've water loaded a lot in my powerlifting career, but I did it once and it didn't work. And I was like, what's going on? Like, I'm doing everything I should be. I don't understand why it's not working. I've had that happen once. And
that's like, most, to be honest, I've seen it it's usually effective in powerlifters because powerlifters aren't usually in massive deficits and watching their salts and whereas in bodybuilding, it's a lot more temperamental because there's so much restriction in bodybuilding that your sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, and bicarb all have the power to impact it. So you've got all of these other things playing in. But it can be for a number of reasons. It could be that you were dehydrated to begin with, so your body actually responded to it by taking up more cellular water, which is ironic. I had, I'm going to dog Freaky Deaky in. I have been banging on for years to Alex Dakin about drinking more water. This guy is an insane powerlifter, for those of you out there who don't know him.
Insane.
But I'd been banging on to him for years about it, and then we did a practice water load for one of his competitions coming up, and he sent me a message and said, "Len, am I supposed to feel better on a water load?" And I said, "No, Bob, I think that's just because you've been dehydrated this whole time." So it puts it into perspective for you. The human body knows what it needs. It's got negative feedback loops. It's got all of these different things that it can rely on to bring the status quo back. So let's stop focusing on what we can do to outsmart it. Stop smashing the caffeine thinking that it's going to make you burn more calories. Stop taking all of these supplements.
Pre-workouts and
that's it. All these subs that promise you this and promise you that. Get focused on the 80%. Stop focusing on that 20%. 80% is move regularly, whatever kind of sport you're in, or whether you just walk or whether you swim or yoga, it doesn't matter. Move regularly. Set your caloric intake based on your movement and your metabolic rate. And if you're fortunate enough to know your body composition, use your lean mass to determine that, because it will help you to get a more accurate read on it. Then make sure you're getting adequate protein. Improve your sleep quality. look at things like, how can I manage my intake to best serve me? What frequency of meals is going to work best for me? How should I plan my day? Should I have more carbohydrates when I'm more active and less carbohydrates when I'm less active? Things like that. And then you've got 80% of it covered, guys. Then the 20% can start factoring in. But until you get that 80% on point, stop worrying about the little 1%ers that add up to that little peak of the pyramid that we're all always trying to sell to people, right?
All trying to get to. I know, that's where the money making is, though, in that little triangle.
It's true.
That's where it is for BCAAs and all that crap.
That's right. And some of them are useful. Like, we're not trying to talk down all supplements. Some of them are useful, but probably not if you're only training twice a week and your diet is crap, right? Like, it's probably not going to make any significant difference in your
Probably not. Just going to take your money, really.
Exactly.
But you know, you wouldn't need. Yeah, well, you wouldn't need to buy, you know, all of those supplements for recovery, or like a Theragun, or, you know, all of those little things, if you just trained the amount that your body can actually handle.
That's
if you're trying to train 7 days a week, you're not prehabbing, you're not eating enough protein, you're not sleeping enough, you're not drinking enough water, like your body just can't handle it. Like, you're not setting your body up to be able to recover from 7 sessions. So maybe do 4, and then, you know, that time that you have, you know, use it to rehab, use it to prep your food, to you know, make sure you're buying the right shit to accommodate recovery. Really
use it to do the 80%. It's
exactly.
It's simple. All right, well, I think we've covered our topics for today, but we're pretty excited to get this one out for you guys. We've got another one coming shortly. But thanks for listening to us. Hopefully we've given you some good talking points to go out and chat with all of your mates. But
just throw the information in their face. Just throw it right out.
Like, this is why we don't do this.
But hopefully the next episode will actually be face to face, you know, in person.
Live and in person. Nice. We're excited for that. But thank you all for listening. And we're excited to have you back for our next round.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Stay safe.
Be good, guys.
Bye.
How do I stop recording?